This video is done in classic rant fashion. I'll try not to let the message and the point be diminished by my disgust. Many of you seen the post that I posted on Facebook, basically showing a snippet of what actually occurred. That's usually how it is when something is being filmed. You don't see what led to the events that are quote-unquote controversial, or in this case violent, dysfunctional, and etc. But we weren't able to see what transpired beforehand that led to what the video shows. A guy, a young boy, if I had to guess, probably somewhere between the ages of 17 and 20. Young black male. I'm presuming that the person in the car had called him the forbidden N-word with the ER. We gotta state that for the purposes of this video. Young man clearly took exception to it. Was trying to provoke the person to get out of the car, which I'm really gonna harp on that later. Was trying to provoke the person to get out of the car and I guess engage in physical combat with him for using the racial slur. The person didn't do it. He seemed to act as if he was gonna walk away, then turns around and Liu Kang's the window, kicks the window out for you young folks. He sidekicks the guy's window out. Now, before I get into everything that could have happened in that situation that could have led to long-standing, irreparable outcomes, I just want to touch on the fact of how annoyed and how just fed up I am with the selective outrage regarding the N-word. And I gave a tiny literary diatribe about it on Facebook. So basically what I'll be saying is a reiteration of that. And that is, I'm really appalled by anyone, but in this case, I'm appalled by the selective outrage displayed by American blacks and Negroes as it relates to the N-word. And the primary reason that I'm appalled by is because neither of the groups will do any historical research on words that are supposed to offend them. And in this case, being the N-word, the racial slur, the N-word. Now, let me give a disclaimer. The commentary I'm about to provide is not in any way an etymological breakdown of the origins of Niger, Nigar, Negro. This is not about the Latin etymology, the French, etc. It's not. This is about American vernacular and how the word is used in America, how the Nigger is used in this country. Somewhere within the times past, the American black collective, including the Negro, has been fed the idea that nigga, Nigga, is not only different than Nigger, but that it's somehow endearing, and that it's somehow meant to, I don't know, take the sting off the Nigger, which none of these make any sense. Not just historically, but fundamentally. Back to the original point. The American Black Collective would not do any research on the words, on anything. I mean, not just on this topic, but on anything. And I preface with that to say this: nigga is not different than Nigger, and it's not in any way intended to be endearing. You have to understand the Southern dialect to understand how Nigga is still the same as Nigger, and that is Nigger is the root word, or the root mispronunciation of the word Nigger, which led to Nigga. White racist, white bigots in the South have been calling you nigger for as long as you can, well, not you, but for 200 years. Nigger. You see how you can't necessarily detect that R? The less educated black in this country, you gotta pardon me, I am driving. I do need to pay attention to the road also. That's one of the other challenges faced when doing these hashtag TruckUTV Central videos. But there, you can fathom how Nigga can sound like Nigger. You've been called that with an intent to degrade and demean you. It's not a different word. Now, if I had to guess, somewhere in time, a sneaky, slithery white liberal climbed into the ear of some self-appointed, self-held, important Negro leader and told him, listen, you guys, should take the sting off of that word by calling one another nigga. It could have happened that way, or it could have happened the more probable way, which would be uppity slaves calling other slaves nigger and adapting the dialect of their slave masters. And throughout time, they called their children niggas when they got mad, or when they were intending to degrade or demean or get an emotional response from their children. So what was nigger eventually evolved, for lack of a more appropriate term, into nigga, which is why for decades you can see throughout history nigga being said to one, even nigga said from black person to black person, depending on how it's used, can be used as a source of provocation for altercation. So the basis is this: the words aren't the same, and I don't think black people have a problem with even Nigger. I mean, I would venture to say that if you're 30 years old or less, you've never even been called a nigger to your face. I venture to say that. And I'm not even speaking demographically or geographically. If you're 30 years old or less, odds are you've never been called that to your face. So the provocation and the antagonistic nature of the word really has more of a historical context, or something that's just been beat into the psyche of the American black collective throughout time. But nonetheless, they've heard the word over and over. They've been called nigger by their own people more than they have any white person. And but because it's socially acceptable and it's a term of endearment, you've perpetuated this term and made it into something cool when it's absolutely not. And that needs to be emphasized. That needs to be taught to your children. You don't need to use the word around your children. And if you do use the word, it needs to be used in this context as a means of educating. And the other side of this that's most annoying is not just the fact that you've been calling your fellow brother and sisters niggers for the longest. I don't care how you want to twist the word and whatever deviation you want to give. You've been doing it, and you've been psychologically crippling yourself for 200 years. Well, let me back up. For at least, we'll be conservative and say 70 years. You've been crippling yourself with the N-I-G-G-A myth. But when I think about how the American black, who's so offended by this term, allows other ethnic groups and racial and other races, if they're down, they can call them nigger. They can call them this hostile, degrading word that they're so offended by. And I mean, as a side note, black people are always talking about cultural misappropriation and how their culture is taken and stolen and beaten. Well, the fact of the matter is, you allow that. I mean, not beaten, stolen and used for whatever gain other races. Normally when you hear people talking about this, they're talking about white people. They're not talking about Hispanics or Asians or whoever that quote unquote act black. This is allowed through your own doing. And in the case of the NIGGA, it's another example of that. But if somebody's cool and somebody's down, you'll allow them to do that. You allow con men to come in your neighborhood, generate a source of wealth, degrade you, call you nigger with disdain when they're mad at you or when you're trying to shyster them out of products, or if you're standing around their corner store drinking and don't want to leave, or disrespect one of their women, they want to call you the NIGGA with disdain. But other than that, you let them call you, what's up, my nigga? You know, you go into their stores, what's up, my nigga? All this shit, man. So, once again, this is just one more reason why you can't be taken seriously by any intellectual or by anybody that actually wants change, evolution, and prosperity of the American black collective, such as myself. There's something else I'm missing. maybe I did touch on everything I want to say about it. No, last thing. Back to the video itself. This boils down to parenting. It really does, because, I mean, that boy is still a boy. He's far from a man. And his emotion... Now, y'all know where I could go with that emotional response. Again, I'm gonna, if you watch the video on Facebook, I'll try to attach the link to this video. That emotional, illogical, absent of reason response is not indicative of a young black male who's been reared by a man. It just isn't. Beyond that, this young fella, this could have gone so many ways. What if the person in that vehicle, first of all, if he's bold enough to call you out of your name, especially that N-word, there may be something deeply rooted within him to begin with, some kind of hate that's driven by violence, or some kind of hate that can easily produce violence towards black males or black people. So he would rather take that risk instead of ignoring a word that most of the black American collective, including Negroes, use on a daily basis. Something you hear all the time. A person says it who's white, who's not down, and you feel so angered and provoked by it that you're willing to run up on that vehicle and get your black ass shot. Shot dead on the spot. And you're always talking about injustice. So you can pretty much imagine that you'd have got shot and that person would have gotten off, because you approached them in a violent manner, and the video only captures you acting a goddamn fool. Not the person in the vehicle. You. Secondly, what if you kicked that window, jackass? What if you kicked that window and physics just was not on your side that day? You kick the window, your leg goes through, and it cuts your main artery in your inner thigh, and you bleed out and die over Nigger or Niggar, depending on where they were when this video occurred, depending on how they're saying it. Bleed out in the street over a perceived violation. Thirdly, what if you kicked the window and again physics just wasn't on your side that day, and the glass came out and hit the guy or woman? I don't know what it was. I'm assuming it was a guy, a white guy, because the black male Negro will let the white female get away with a lot of stuff, and that's a completely different topic. You kick that window and the glass goes and hits that person in the artery in the neck, and they bleed out and die. Again, poor problem solving, zero logic, 100% emotion. That's what drives the average, and I'm being conservative. That's what drives the average American black male youth. Well, average American black male, period. So people were posting this video, I'm sure, laughing at it, saying that's what that person gets, the person in the car, for saying the N-word, etc. I'm telling you, y'all better smarten the hell up, because for somebody who's so socially aware enough to know or to believe that every white cop wants to kill you, the white privilege makes people feel empowered to kill you and get off, but yet you behave like savages and maniacs every chance you get. Where does that leave you? It doesn't leave you on the side of justice. It doesn't leave you on the side of being able to get out of sticky situations unscathed. So you do well if you're going to have that kind of disposition and attitude and perspective about white America, then you do well to understand that you're living in a jungle, and you need to abide within the confines of that jungle and abide by the laws of the jungle and do what you need to do to preserve life and whatever perceivable freedom we have. The rough translation to that is don't be a fucking idiot. Think before you act. So I'll leave it at that. I want to go harder. I want to go deeper. But I'll leave it be. #TruckUTV Central. I'm out.